Good evening, I'm Hannah Mackenzie. One man is dead, another behind bars after an alleged homicide in Escambia County. Okaloosa County deputies say Cordell Smart was an innocent bystander when he was shot. I want you to take a look at this store here at this convenience store, just smashed to smithereens. And it shows Hunter Black was not under the influence of alcohol. A Myrtle Grove couple escaping serious injury after a car plows through their living room. Reflective tape, strobe lights, and a crossing arm. It's hard to miss one of these big things. It's an invasive species in the Gulf of Mexico with no known predators except anglers. A victim who survived the mass shooting in Aurora, Illinois last month is suing state police for $2 million. If we swing around over here, others are just eerily a shell of what they once were. Are you looking for a reason to stay in bed, not just now, but for a while? How about 19,000 reasons? Pensacola police say he would hide behind trees and wait for female joggers and walkers to pass by before popping out. How much would you be willing to pay for a good cup of coffee? Is $75 too much? Yes. I was out and about for a little while today, Alan, and it was gorgeous, but not warm enough to get in the water like we saw just a short while ago. Those people must be from up north.
Probably.
Good evening, I'm Hannah Mackenzie. Today, surrounded by friends and family in Andalusia, Alabama, a U.S. Army veteran was laid to rest. The funeral service, although complete with military honors, is 75 years overdue. In 1943, 2nd Lieutenant Walter Buster Stone was killed when his P-47 Thunderbolt aircraft crashed in northern France. Stone's remains weren't found until 2017 during an excavation mission. It took another year for experts to identify his remains with the help of Stone's military ID and DNA analysis. Today, family, friends, even strangers turned out to pay their last respects. Stone's family say they never gave up hope that he'd someday return home. We'll have more on this veteran's homecoming and final send-off tonight on Channel 3 News at 10. One of the victims from Monday's plane crash in Foley has died. That's according to the Federal Aviation Administration. We know 2 people, a male and a female, were on board the single-engine Piper when it went down. It's not known who was piloting the plane at the time, the female flight instructor or the male student. The pair were practicing takeoffs and landings. An undercover investigation leads to the arrest of a Panama City man accused of soliciting a minor. Walton County Sheriff's deputies were posing online as a 14-year-old girl. They say Christopher D'Angelo Jackson Jr. asked the undercover deputies for nude photos and stated he wanted to engage in sexual activities. Jackson was arrested in Defuniak Springs, where he'd set up a meeting with the alleged minor. He's now behind bars facing multiple charges. A pretty uneventful session for State Representative Mike Hill. None of the 9 bills sponsored by Hills passed in the Florida House, some of which included a tobacco bill prohibiting the sale of flavored tobacco products and a bill prohibiting abortions if a fetal heartbeat is detected. The bills were indefinitely postponed and withdrawn from consideration. Hill represents North Escambia.
First Morning Weather, sponsored by Pensacola State College.
Well, actually, I know you have had your eye on the sky basically all morning, not to mention the radar and whatever else you're looking at as well. But people want to know, what's the weather going to look like later this evening? And of course, the big question about Mother's Day. Coming up, dozens of elderly folks surprised today by a group of Pensacola women. The reason behind the pre-Mother's Day celebration. And we're stamping out hunger, how our area stacks up in the nation's largest single-day food drive. With 130-mile-per-hour wind gusts, Michael ripped through Panama City.
We were right there in that bathtub. I was on top of my mom.
I was looking at my husband thinking that the door was going to bust open and suck him out.
Well, it did sound like a freight train.
Imagine living through that. Now imagine living through it like this. Deaf since birth, that was Robert Roth's reality as the Category 4 hurricane pounded his Bay Villa apartment. He's saying that the water level came up to right here, so his whole apartment was flooded. The storm even tearing a hole in his ceiling. He was staying in the bathroom when the storm came through. By what little sign language I do know. Did you think you were going to die? And through notes, Roth gave me his story. A friend who lives next door has been helping him communicate with people and try to get the resources he needs. He's been trying to file a claim with FEMA, but with long lines and a curfew in place, he's been turned away the last few days, forced to stay here in apartment number 7. The rest of the Bayville apartment residents aren't much better off.
25 years ago, they added this upstairs. And when they added it upstairs, obviously it probably wasn't a whole lot of code and all that.
The owner of the complex, Joe Doherty, taking me on a tour, showed me what's left of the second floor, where several people were seeking shelter. Can you imagine what it would be like to ride out the storm in there?
No, I can't. No, I really can't. I couldn't even begin to imagine.
Roth, counting his blessings he survived, is now focused on moving on. But with no running water, no electricity, and no real method of communication, it's extremely challenging. Thank you. 7 decapitated chickens were found at the Jesse Rogers Memorial Cemetery on Tuesday. Today, just feathers left behind. We followed a trail leading straight to a carcass. Pennies were also found scattered around the birds. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then one in the bushes, 12. Copper signifies love and compassion, a sacrifice for La Virgen de Cobre, says Jose Ortiz, who practices Santeria. The chickens, he says, symbolize ridding the body of disease, a curse, or preparing for a legal battle. The number of birds also has a meaning.
Is basically calling the 7 actual deities or gods, down to help that family who has a generational curse.
We caught up with Ortiz at Stone Soup, an intuitive spiritual center. He tells us the focus of Santeria is cleansing the soul of negative energy.
The religion is so complex, and it's very deeply enriched with so many different other religions, voodoo, voodoo, the list goes on.
On the same day last year, the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office says 5 decapitated chickens were found at the cemetery. A neighbor who didn't want to speak on camera says there's a history of animal sacrifices here. Several years back, decapitated goats were found.
If they sacrifice the goat, it's to get the attention of the warrior god, and to offer him an offering to protect the family and fight for that family.
Ortiz says a goat can also represent the deity Oya, ruler of justice and the cemetery. Although he practices the light side of Santeria, there's a dark side too, and he doesn't take any chances.
You were the one that was there?
I went today.
Okay, after this meeting, I'd like to go ahead and do a cleansing on you because you were there and you were inside that immediate energy, and whatever was attached to that work can be attached to you.
Making sure nothing stuck, I was cleansed with sage.
You get some sage and you smudge yourself and you'll notice the difference.
Along with my photographer Max and everyone around us, just to be on the safe side.
I want to make sure that nothing is attached to you.
Just 2 months away from aging out of the foster system, Kentrell Baptiste decided to make it official.
Even though I consider myself a very independent person, it's always good to feel that you have some support there, and someone who you can rely on.
For Baptiste, who's been in and out of foster care since he was 6 months old, that person is Kathleen Menda.
I'd take them all if I could, I guess.
Menda has fostered 15 children. Her newest is just 2 months old. She has one biological son and another who's adopted. But on this National Adoption Day, it's all about Baptiste.
He's been family since day one. We're just making it official.
So are you going to change your last name?
I wanted to change my name to a specific name, but she wouldn't let me, so I'm just going to keep it to this, to Baptiste.
You don't want to know.
What was the name? I want to know.
Minaj.
He's a Nicki Minaj fan. He was going to change his last name to Minaj, and I said no. So there you go.
Names aside, Baptiste just minutes away from legally becoming part of the Menda family. Until... Not one but 2 fire alarms go off. A mandatory building evacuation prompting an hour-long photo op in the parking lot as fire crews check the place out. An all clear, and it was back inside to take care of business.
Do you know why you're here today?
For adoption.
And what do you want to happen today?
For it to be finalized.
Okay. Is there anything that you want to tell the judge today?
Today was a memorable day.
And just like that.
I'm signing it electronically right now, and it's filing with the clerk. So it's final at this time, so congratulations.
No pen and paper, no gavel, just a moment. 17 and a half years and 2 fire alarms in the making. Hannah Mackenzie, Channel 3 News.